Okay, so you're thinking about getting a Tesla full self-driving. Maybe you don't have the scratch to afford a brand new one or a newer one with the latest technology, so you're kind of wondering, hey, if I get an older Tesla, like a 2018 or 2019 Model 3 or an older Model Y, will it be able to run the full self-driving? And the answer is yes, but there are some caveats. Here we have a 2019 Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus. It's actually my own personal vehicle. This one is equipped with the full self-driving capability. So yeah, the full self-driving has evolved over the years. Right now it's at a point where it's actually really good. I've been using it for about 2 years. When I first started using full self-driving, it was at the cusp where they're actually letting a wider range of people use it. For a while, it was in limited beta where only a select group of people and Tesla employees could use it. But right around the time when I bought this, almost exactly 2 years ago, they started allowing it to be used by individual people like me that weren't signed up for like the beta program or weren't a Tesla employee. But 2 years ago, it was still really buggy. You had to intervene a lot. But now with FSD 12 supervised, so now with FSD 12, it's out of beta, and they call it supervised. So it is technically, I guess you call it full self-driving, but you have to supervise it. So over the years, they've had different computer systems to power the advanced autopilot systems and full self-driving. The first Teslas that could actually use the full self-driving software were Teslas equipped with the full self-driving computer. So basically, in 2019 and after, pretty much every Tesla that was made was automatically equipped with a full self-driving computer, also known as Hardware 3. The Model 3 first came out in 2017. The Model Y, which is largely based on the Model 3 platform, first came out for the 2020 model year. So some of the earlier Model 3s had what they call the Autopilot Computer 2.5. That's not capable of running the full self-driving software. So you either need to pay to get an upgrade, or I think this is the case if the car is equipped with a full self-driving capability. The full self-driving capability was not a subscription, but was paid for. They would do a free upgrade to the full self-driving computer. So if you have an older Model 3 from 2017, 2018, and partway in 2019 that has the older full self-driving, that has the older Autopilot computer, the Autopilot 2.5, you can get it upgraded to the full self-driving computer. If you don't have the full self-driving capability, you didn't purchase it, and you want to subscribe to it, I think Tesla charges $1,000 to upgrade to that Hardware 3 computer. But things have changed over the years, and now they have Hardware 4. So, this car, it's 2024, this car was built, right around the 2019, maybe a little bit earlier. It's a 2019 model year. So this hardware is about 5 years old. So in 2023, they started putting Hardware 4 into Teslas. Hardware 4 has better cameras. There's 8 cameras all around the vehicle, so the Tesla uses pure vision. That doesn't use radar or LiDAR. It uses pure camera vision to operate the full self-driving software. And Hardware 4 also has a bigger, more powerful computer that powers the full self-driving software. Kind of like a computer or a phone. Think about, an iPhone from 5 years ago. It's not going to have a fastest processor. It's not going to have as high a screen resolution. The cameras aren't going to be as good as a brand new iPhone from 2024. Same with these Teslas. The thing with Teslas, it's like a smartphone on wheels. Where you have regular gas cars, 2 or 3, 4 years, you're not going to see a huge leap in technology. It doesn't matter as much. But for a vehicle like this, where it's largely based on software, a lot of things can, progress in 4 or 5 years. Just like your computer or your phone can, a 4 or 5 year old computer or phone can be vastly different as far as technology goes. The thing with Hardware 3 is that it doesn't look like it's going to be upgradable. So if I wanted to upgrade this car to Hardware 4, it's not possible. Just upgrading the cameras outside, upgrading the processor, the self-driving computer, it's not going to be possible. But Tesla, Elon, for the longest time, when they had hardware 4 cars, they said that it was operating in what they call hardware 3 emulation mode. So what they were doing is that they were optimizing the full self-driving software to operate on hardware 3, like this car, and all the other newer Teslas that have hardware 4, it's in hardware 3 emulation mode. So even though it has a bigger, faster computer, better cameras, it's basically emulating hardware 3 so they could optimize the full self-driving to work pretty much in all the Teslas. But now we have a new version of FSD 12.5, which actually now allows for hands-free driving. There's a camera right here, and it monitors your eyes. So if you take your eyes off, if you're looking off the road, you're looking at the screen, it will alert you, hey, you got to pay attention, and if not, it will disable the full self-driving. So now it's completely hands-free, but right now, the only vehicles that can operate the FSD 12.5, and obviously this could change, you know, this is as of August 2024, so right now it's only Model Ys equipped with hardware 4, they're able to use this latest version of full self-driving. So Elon says that the Teslas like this one that are equipped with the older FSD, that are equipped with the older hardware 3, will be able to be full self-driving once they solve it. It will be able to drive better than a human once they have it optimized, but the cars with hardware 4 are going to be able to drive 4 to 5 times better than a human versus this one. So they're saying that, yeah, it's potentially possible for this still to one day maybe be a robotaxi or to be fully autonomous. I don't need to pay attention while I drive it, even with hardware 3. But that's kind of up in the air. I mean, Elon also said, you know, a while ago that you'd be able to drive, you know, coast to coast, hands-free by 2020. Obviously, that's not the case as of 2024. You know, Elon, love him or hate him, I think, you know, he's kind of revolutionized EVs. I mean, I'm a very impressive car. I'm very impressed with FSD, but sometimes his timelines, he can look at things a little bit too rosy-colored. He can say, oh, we're going to get this thing solved in a couple weeks or a couple months or a year, where it turns out to be a lot longer, a couple years. So it still looks like, you know, FSD, as far as what they call level 5 autonomy, which is completely the highest level of autonomy where you don't need to pay attention, the car can drive by itself. It still seems like it's a year or two away, but, you know, I thought that a couple years ago, so who really knows? But so yeah, the short answer is yes, you can buy an older Tesla and it can operate FSD, but it might not be able to operate the latest version of FSD, and it's still up in the air since they're having to have, you know, more advanced hardware and software to operate FSD as it progresses. It requires a lot of computing power. It requires a lot of high definition cameras, because the car is looking and seeing at everything, and it's processing a lot of information. So when you have an older car of older hardware like this, you're starting to kind of, you know, reach your limit as far as what you can do as far as computing power goes. And even the hardware 4 cars, they're now talking about by 2025 they have an even higher version, an even better version of hardware that's going to start rolling out, called, I think it's not going to be called hardware 5, they're going to call it AI 5. So even the hardware 4 cars might are going to look like they're going to be somewhat obsolete, because the hardware 4 cars were made since 2023, and now in 2025 they're going to have cars with AI 5 that has even a faster computer processor to operate the full self-driving software, and even better cameras on the outside. So we're not completely sure. I'm not completely sure. As a Tesla owner, you know, I was really excited about full self-driving. I was excited to be one of the first people, you know, publicly to be able to operate a full self-driving car. But now I'm not sure if this car will truly be able to be full self-driving, now that we're seeing Tesla move on to even, you know, greater hardware 4 and 5. And now my car isn't, you know, before, you know, my car was getting all the latest FSD updates, you know, all the Teslas with hardware 3 like this one were able to get the latest updates as far as full self-driving software goes. But now that's the case. There's cars out there operating FSD 12.5, which is hands-free, but I'm still using 12.3. Elon says, you know, he says a lot of things. I don't know if it's true or not. This is what he's saying. He's saying that, you know, they're going to start off with FSD 12.5 operating on the hardware 4 Model Ys, and then once they get everything optimized, then they're going to come out with a version for the older hardware 3 cars like this one. Hopefully that's the case. I'm really excited to actually truly be hands-free. I'm excited to try that out. But right now we're going to take this for a little drive on full self-driving. We're going to go to Dave's in Milton. A little short drive, but it's a little bit of a complex drive going through a rotary and stuff like that. We're in a fairly congested area. So we're going to take it for a drive, and then we'll go back to the dealership. It's a short little drive, and we'll see how the full self-driving does on an older Tesla. Very impressed by the system. You know, it was very wonky. I was constantly intervening like every couple minutes, every 5 minutes. But now it's a lot better. It's actually so good now that it actually can operate in a parking lot like this. Before it couldn't. So we can see that this steering wheel is highlighted in blue. That means when the steering wheel is highlighted in blue, the car is operating in full self-driving. So it's driving itself. But with this older version of FSD, it does require me to put my hand in the wheel and to pay attention. There's a camera right here monitoring me. So if I start looking at the screen too long, I start getting distracted, I start messing around with stuff, it will say, hey, pay attention. It will tell me to wiggle the wheel a little bit just to show I'm paying attention. If I do not react to those requests to pay attention, it will disable the full self-driving, and if it happens too many times, you can get in the penalty box where you could lose the ability to use it for a week or so. I haven't not had that happen, knock on wood, once in 2 years, so hopefully that won't happen today. So full self-driving, you'll notice, will be a little overly cautious as far as pulling out in front of traffic goes. If it does take too long, I can hit the throttle and encourage it to go without disengaging it. But it is a lot better. I mean, I think one of the things that probably is the most annoying is that it does come to a complete stop at stop signs, at four-way stops. I think 99% of people, even though it feels like that, we don't come to a complete stop at stop signs. For a while, Teslas were kind of doing the same thing. They were stopping like we do, but the federal government found out and they didn't like that, and they actually had to do a recall to make sure that the Teslas do a complete stop at the stop sign. So it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but if you don't want to do a complete stop, you can override it just by hitting the throttle. Maybe I can show you an example of that. So you can see that the car is telling me just to wiggle the wheel a little bit to pay attention. There's a sensor right here that you can squeeze. You can also just kind of turn the wheel a little bit. If you turn it too much, it will disengage it. See, I just engaged it right there, and you just flip that down, and then it's engaged again. You can also disengage it by pushing up on the shift lever like that. And then it asks, why did you disengage? And you actually can do a voice memo letting Tesla know what happened, so you know the engineers can use those examples to potentially help make the system better. And we can see here, this is the whole mind of the Tesla. This is everything it sees, and this is the reason why they are having to use more complex computers, because there's a lot of stuff to monitor. I mean, look at all the things that are going on right now. The cameras are monitoring so many vehicles moving, and it's predicting what they're going to do. That requires a lot of computing power. I actually think it's pretty amazing that a car this old is able to do this stuff, because for a long time, all this technology in this car was dormant. You really weren't using it. It was waiting for the software to catch up to the hardware to be able to utilize all this. And up until a couple years ago, even though this car was made in 2019, it really wasn't until 2022, 2023, where this car was fully able to take advantage of this hardware. So Tesla is definitely thinking ahead when they built this car, and it cost them extra money, because back when this car was made, you know, most people weren't paying the $8,000. I think that at the time that's what it cost for the full self-driving. But Tesla figured, hey, we're just going to put it in every car. So potentially in the future, you know, people might want to subscribe to the software. They, you know, maybe we could make these added to the fleet of robotaxis. So they were definitely thinking way ahead by putting FSD computers in all their cars 2019 going forward. And the price of FSD has fluctuated. You know, it was $8,000, then it was $10,000, then it was $12,000, then it was as much as $15,000. Then they lowered the price to $12,000, and now it's actually down to $8,000 again. Or you can subscribe to it for $100 a month. So I bought this car with the full self-driving. It already had it. The previous owner already had it, so it came with the vehicle. You know, in most cases, when you buy a Tesla, we've sold a lot of Teslas with full self-driving capability, and we've never had a customer lose it. So generally, you know, if you buy a Tesla that has a full self-driving software with it, it's going to stay with the vehicle when they transfer owners. But it can be a little bit confusing, because you can see full self-driving capability, but if you're subscribed to it, it will say full self-driving capability as well. If it doesn't have full self-driving capability right here, it will just say autopilot. Autopilot's the basic, like, it's like traffic aware cruise control, which works pretty good. Autopilot's pretty amazing in itself. But if you see an expiration date for full self-driving capability, that means that the current owner is subscribing to it. They pay the $99 a month. Here you see full self-driving capability. There's no expiration date. There's an expiration date for the premium connectivity, which is $10 a month. So that renews August 22nd, 2024. But you can see there's no renewal date or expiration date here. That means that this vehicle has the full self-driving capability. You don't have to pay extra for it. It stays with the vehicle, and you get all the updates. So you can see we've done a lot of complex driving so far. It's actually been pretty much a breeze. We went through a rotary. We're making a left-hand turn in a double left-hand turn lane. And you know, a year ago, I would actually have to do a lot of overriding. I'd have to take over because the car just wasn't capable of handling all that stuff. It had it really had a hard time in rotaries. But now with FSD 12, it's gotten a lot better in the rotaries. It still has hiccups. We can see here there's a traffic revision, and it can see it, and it's reacting to the traffic revision. Even though technically it thinks that the road is right there, it can see that there is a traffic revision. So with road construction, with a lane closed, even traffic controllers holding up, you know, a stop sign telling it to stop, a lot of times the car will react and follow the traffic revisions and road constructions. It's pretty amazing. And as far as the nags go, they call it a nag. The nag is basically telling you to put its hand in the wheel. So of the later versions of FSD, they've kind of spaced them out. And I like the fact too, like if you're in stop and go traffic, it doesn't nag you too much. So if you're like in stop and go traffic on the highway, you're not going very fast, it kind of leaves you alone as far as having to put your hand in the wheel, which is nice. But when you're driving like this or driving... All right, sorry about that. We had a little bit of a snafu. My GoPro overheated. It's almost 90 degrees out, and on top of it being on my head, it gets a little hot. But pretty much it stopped right as we were approaching Dave's in Milton. Did a pretty good job, so we're gonna head back to work and see how it does. There's Dave's right there. Good old fast diner food. Actually used to live right across the street. So this is kind of a little of a complicated turn. We got this guy walking along, doesn't look like he's gonna go through the crosswalk. So we can see us being a little bit overly cautious as far as cars go, which is a good thing. It's kind of creeping out there, just making sure there's no cars going, and then it's going. I didn't have to help it out or encourage it, hit the throttle to make it go. It just did it all on its own. So yeah, you know, full self-driving is, as you can see, working fantastic on this older Tesla, this 2019 Tesla. So yeah, potentially so Tesla's technically, they say, as old as 2016. Some of the Model S's and Model X's, you could upgrade the cameras and the computers to operate full self-driving. And then, you know, pretty much every Tesla Model 3, when it first came out in 2017, they're upgradable to hardware 3. But as far as any future updates for these older Teslas, will they be upgradable to hardware 4? Will there be any possible upgrades to help it, you know, operate the later versions of full self-driving software, that's pretty much up in the air. Elon is saying that yes, it will achieve, it will eventually be better than a human driver, better and safer than a human driver on hardware 3, but it's not guaranteed. I'd hope for it to be the case. I can't afford to buy a newer Tesla right now with the hardware 4 or the hardware 5. You know, I bought this one, you know, 2 years ago, anticipating that eventually they'll sell full self-driving. It said it had a full self-driving computer, so I could only assume that they would get it to work on this version of the car, but that doesn't look like it's 100% the case now. It looks like, you know, there's a chance that they might sell full self-driving, but they'll require vehicles with much faster computers and much better cameras than this one has to actually have it work. So there's a chance that I could be left behind, or other owners of Teslas like this could be left behind and might have to, you know, upgrade to a newer one. Tesla had done some deals in the past. I don't know if they have something going on right now, but in the past, when they had like access inventory, they had a deal like if you had an older Tesla like this, equipped with a full self-driving capability, you could actually transfer it to a newer Tesla. That if you bought like a new Tesla in current stock, they would for free, they'd let you transfer it from your older Tesla to the new Tesla you bought, and you didn't even have to trade in that older Tesla. You could keep your old Tesla and you could still transfer it to the new Tesla. So this one would just have, you know, the regular autopilot, and if I bought that new Tesla, they transfer my full self-driving. So that could be a potential way in the future that they could placate some people that are unhappy, who, you know, bought an old Tesla like this with the anticipation that it would be truly full self-driving. That could be Tesla's, you know, thing to placate people like me and other people that are upset. But, you know, a new car, a new Tesla is a lot of money. And from 2 years ago, you know, 2 years ago, Teslas were also a lot more money in the used market. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for this thing 2 years ago. It's almost embarrassing, but I was kind of bit by the Tesla bug, and I really wanted it. So I made a big boy decision and I got it. But, you know, since then, they've gotten a lot cheaper. There's, you know, Tesla's been able to ramp up production, so there's millions and millions of Teslas on the road. So that brought down the used prices significantly. Like, right now, as of around August 2024, you could buy a Tesla like this with full self-driving capability, you know, for the mid $20,000 range, depending on the miles and condition. If you got something with higher mileage, you could get it maybe even closer to 20,000. And you don't even need, you know, for 99 bucks a month, that's not that much money, you know, to, you know, for a nice software like this. You could try out the full self-driving and see if you like it. You could buy it for 8,000, but, you know, for 99 bucks a month, it would take you a while before you got to the point where you're saving money versus paying $8,000 for it. So, but yeah, you can see that this older Tesla, even with the older version of full self-driving, it works great. It doesn't, you know, make me put my hand in the wheel too much. It is pretty close to, you know, hands-free for a little bit. Every once in a while, it'll just tell me to nudge the wheel, and then it's good for a couple minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And it's nice. I use full self-driving pretty much 95, if not more % of the time when I'm driving. A whole weight is lifted off my shoulders because I'm in supervisor mode. The car's doing the work for me. I'm just here, sitting here, and in situations like my dad, he has a Tesla. He lives in the Boston area. He just uses regular autopilot, but he came out here to visit, and he's not really familiar with this area, but I let him borrow the car for a day because, you know, I had to work that day. I couldn't hang out with him, so I let him take my car. He wanted to go to the Boeing Museum. He wanted to go to, you know, Point Defiance, and he really doesn't know the area that well, and he put the Boeing Museum into the navigation, and the car took him there. He put, when he was done at the Boeing Museum, he put Point Defiance, and the car took it to him. He said it was life-changing. He says it was so nice, you know, because even with navigation, it can be, you know, if you're not familiar with the area, it can give you some anxiety. It can be stressful navigating in an area you're not familiar with, but to have the car do that for you, for him, it was revolutionary. And he's used to Teslas. He's used to autopilot, but he really saw the amazingness of full self-driving with that experience. And you know, driving on the highway is very monotonous. So having a system like this, even autopilot, it really makes a big difference. You know, I hate driving on the highway. You know, at nighttime in the rain, you're kind of really fighting hard to keep your car centered in the lane trying to see. Well, the car's doing that for you. You're in supervisor mode. I can't tell you how much of a weight off your shoulders, how much stress it takes away. A long road trip, you know, driving up to Seattle, driving in the city and stop and go traffic and rush hour, it is so much more manageable. It's so much more enjoyable with full self-driving or even autopilot. It really makes a big difference. Here we're coming up to the store, so it did a great job taking us here. Normally with the older versions of autopilot, I would probably have to do, you know, when I first got it, probably on these drives, I would probably have to do 4 or 5, if not more, interventions, just because it wasn't doing things right. It was getting confused in the rotary, but really, I didn't have to do any inputs. There's one instance where we're at making a right on rev, where there was a car behind me, where I just kind of gave it a nudge on the throttle just to not annoy the person behind me, but that's it. And another recent update too that has come out is parking. This has self-parking now, which is pretty cool. And that was a recent update. So you can see now that it can recognize parking spaces here. So I just pick one. I'm going to park right there. And I'm going to hit start. And the car is going to park itself. So, you know, in a lot of ways, this is a car that, even though it gets better, it gets older, it gets better. I didn't have this self-parking for up until recently, up until maybe 2 or 3 months ago, that I have this self-park feature. And it did a pretty good job. It did it pretty fast. So if you're not great with parking, that's really nice. And there you have it. So yeah, hopefully this is informative. So, you know, maybe if you can't quite afford a brand new Tesla full self-driving, maybe you're looking at an older one on the used market. You're thinking of getting, you know, you're wondering if full self-driving will work. People have asked me that in some of my other Tesla videos, you know, will full self-driving work on an older Tesla? Yes, it will. But as far as when full self-driving, you know, the software progresses, will this be able to operate the latest, greatest version of the full self-driving in the future? Maybe, maybe not. Will it be able to operate the future versions of full self-driving to its ultimate abilities? Most likely not, because this is it's just like a computer. You have a 5-year-old computer, and you're trying to, and you buy a brand new game that came out, you know, a brand new version of Grand Theft Auto. You're not going to be able to put it on max graphic settings and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to, you're going to have to turn everything down, because that older hardware is not going to be able to, you know, operate and process all the latest graphics of that new game. That's kind of the same with full self-driving. But hopefully it will be good enough for one day when the software gets to the point where it can truly be autonomous. This can maybe go out and make money for me as a robo-taxi. Maybe I can take a nap in the back seat. You've had a little too many cocktails at the bar, you can sit in the back seat, take a nap while the car drives you home, and you don't have to worry about getting a DUI. That'd be amazing. Now think about how many accidents there are a year. How many people die in the United States and the world from car accidents? Most of those car accidents are because of human error. You know, we only have 2 cameras and we get easily distracted. This has, you know, 8 cameras, you know, all around it that are constantly monitoring things. This does not get distracted. It doesn't, you know, look at its phone. It doesn't get drunk. It doesn't get high. It's always paying attention. So if, you know, the majority of the cars on the road could one day have full self-driving, that's going to save a lot of lives. They could actually potentially save more lives than seatbelts or airbags ever did. And Elon says that, you know, they're not just going to keep this for Tesla. Once they solve full self-driving, they're going to make it available for anybody to license it and use it. And I think when it gets to that point, it's going to be kind of like a horse and buggy. Once cars came along, horse and buggies quickly went away. I think, you know, there's some people that, like, I enjoy driving, you know, I like driving cars, but I don't like driving cars in stop and go traffic, and it can be boring doing the same drive every day. That's not fun. You know, give me a beautiful curvy road, I enjoy driving, but once people experience full self-driving and they're confident and not worried about it, I think they're not going to want to go back. For the most part, it's going to be something that everyone's going to want to have. Just kind of like, you know, most people, once they experience a smartphone, now everyone has smartphones. You don't see people saying, oh, you know, I miss my flip phone. I miss my old Nokia or my old Moto Razr. That's not the case. Everyone wants a smartphone and they don't want to go back. So once, you know, Tesla perfects the full self-driving and, you know, a lot more people experience it and they license it out to everyone, I think everyone will have it. If in the future that's possible, there are still some hurdles to overcome, but what I've seen, how far this software has progressed in the last 2 years, how good full self-driving FSD 12 is, it's amazing. It's revolutionary. I'm impressed, and I'm convinced that Tesla will solve it. I'm not sure if it will be able to really truly work on this car. I hope it will, but I think Tesla will be able to solve it in the future. Well, it was a little bit of a long-winded spiel, but if you're interested in getting into the weeds as far as full self-driving goes, especially on an older Tesla, hopefully that's enlightened you a little bit. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon, and have a wonderful day.